So as we all know, there's a lot of people traveling to Japan at the moment. And at the same time, there is a lot of content talking about just how cheap it is to live in Tokyo.
And I'm gonna blow your mind with how cheap it actually is.
And every day I descend further into darkness. It's no secret that the Japanese yen is really weak at the moment, but for the people who are living, working, and earning a salary here in Tokyo, how affordable is it really? Because I just moved here and things are a lot more expensive than I thought they'd be. In this video, I'm gonna show you the true cost of renting here in Tokyo. I'll take you through the exact amount it cost us to move in, the hidden fees and moving companies, the cost of an apartment per square meter, and compare that to other cities around the world, and share every rental secret that landlords here don't want you to know. I have learnt so much just moving to Tokyo, so I can't wait to share the details with you. If you've had a look at any rental sites online, you might see an apartment that looks like this. The photos will be terrible, the kitchen will be tiny, and the sink will be huge. This apartment's in Meguro. It's an area that I really like and really wanted to live in, but just couldn't find the right place in our budget. This is a pretty new building. It's on the 5th floor, it's close to the station. It's not too tiny, and it has a balcony. The average apartment in Meguro for a 1 LDK, or a 1-bedroom living, dining, kitchen area, is said to be at 205,000 yen a month. But that's just for the rent. What else are they not telling us? We have a monthly management fee, a deposit, a bank transfer fee. If you have a car, then parking is 35,000 yen. There's also aircon cleaning fee, key replacement, nearly $600 for a cleaner, guarantor fee, insurance, real estate agent's fee, and of course, the one and only Daikin. Daikin is sometimes called gift money or key money, and it's a lump sum, usually 1 month's rent fee that you pay to the landlord as like a gratitude, like a thank you so much for having me in your apartment. And in my opinion, is bullshit. There's a few theories about where key money started, but the most popular story is after the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923. A lot of houses were damaged, a lot of fires started as well, so there was very few places available to rent. Therefore, there were long lines of people. So some people, in order to skip the queue, I'm sorry about the sirens. In order to skip the queue, would pay a lump sum fee to the landlord as like a thank you so much for having me. And in turn, they would get to rent out the place. Sounds a lot like bribery to me, but pretty much this practice has never stopped. It's just continued in Japan. Back then, the key money was about 1 year's worth of rent, but now it's only 1 to 3 months rent. Lucky us. You won't always have to pay key money, but anecdotally, nearly every single apartment that we looked at did have it, except for one place that was unoccupied for a while because it had like 0 natural light and the bedroom was too small for a bed.
If you see some apartments with higher key money, there are mainly 2 reasons. The first one is these apartments are very popular. Another reason is hidden is part of the higher key money will be giving back to the agent as an incentive to encourage the agent to bring more customers or like tenants.
This is my real estate agent, by the way. His name is Yor, and I went round to his place to meet his cats. I mean, to talk real estate. Oh, you want to be the star of the show.
You want to be the star, yes, go ahead.
Until recently, Yor was only really taking on 1 or 2 real estate jobs a month, but he's just started doing it more frequently. So if you want a really great, chill, speaks 3 languages, real estate agent who's super used to working with foreigners, go and check out the link in the description. He's got a website all set up, and don't forget to enter the code HANNAH for 5% off your real estate agent fee, which is that's not a small discount by any means. That's a great deal. Jump on it if you can, and thank you in advance. So back to our average rental. Adding up all of the hidden fees, the amount just to move in will cost you 846,209 yen. And if we spread out all of these non-refundable move-in fees across a 2-year contract, it'll come to 246,619 yen without parking and 281,619 yen with. Either way, a lot higher than the asking price. Now, I know Japan isn't the only country that loves hidden fees, but I am saying that they're not exempt from them, and if you're budgeting a move to Tokyo, I think it's really helpful to know these things before you go into it.
I gotta do it, man.
More and more these days, Japan is starting to be known as a budget travel destination, but it's not just the weak yen that's making it feel that way. Right now, the median salary in New York City sits at just under 74,000 USD, which is a lot if you compare it to the median salary in Tokyo, which is around 26,800 USD. And yes, I'm gonna try and use median as much as possible because when it comes to stats around like finances and cities and stuff like that, really rich people can skew the stats a lot. If Bill Gates walks into a bar on average, everyone's net worth is now like $1 billion. Salaries in Japan have been more or less stagnant for the past 30 years, with usually only a 0.something% increase, and sometimes it even decreases. There's been a lot of talk about this in the media recently. People have been advocating and protesting that wage increases are necessary, especially because Japan is starting to finally feel the effects of inflation, because the Bank of Japan just raised the interest rates for the first time in a really long time. And I'm going to stop myself there because I'm probably going to lose you, and that's a whole other rabbit hole. But basically, wages have been low for a very, very long time, and rents are starting to increase.
Hi, I would just like to quickly point out the elephant in the room, which is that obviously I am fortunate enough to be earning over the median salary here in Tokyo. So my opinion on affordability is that, yeah, of course, Tokyo is a lot cheaper, or feels a lot cheaper in many ways than like most cities in Australia, for example. But again, I'm not the average person here. I'm mostly pulling from the popular online sentiment, which is that you shouldn't move to Japan with the sole purpose of saving money. Depending on what country you're from, obviously, there's just so many factors when it comes to affordability, and then there's like quality of life, which is a whole nother thing. Yeah, I'm never choosing an economic topic ever again, but had to get that out of the way. Okay, onwards.
外国の人たち NG でして No foreigner はい
Now, on top of all of the hoop jumping and hidden fees, the number of apartments available to you will decrease drastically if you are a foreigner. This is something that I knew about already, obviously. I've lived here for a long time, and something that pretty much every foreigner knows. But there's something about this that I found out recently that was very, very surprising to me.
Why do some landlords not like foreigners?
First, we have to think landlords are their investors. They don't like risks. There is a survey in 2022. More than 52% of landlords said they had experienced problems with foreigners before.
Really?
Yeah, I think the two biggest reasons didn't follow the garbage disposal rules.
Really?
Yeah. The second one is the noise problem, because the Japanese house is very tiny. Sometimes the wall of everything.
So has it got anything to do with like they might leave the country or?
Yes.
Is it common? Does it happen frequently?
Not very common. Not very
Right.
common. Yeah, but it does happen to more foreigners than Japanese people.
It's like a Japanese person could do the same thing, right?
Yes, yes, of course. There is even a term for that called yonige, which means run away in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But it used to happen when the economy is not good. So it's not very common recently, but it still happens to foreigners.
In your experience, what percentage of landlords will say no if it's a foreigner?
There's no official data for this for sure. And my personal experience, about 10%.
Is there any laws discriminating against foreigners in this kind of way?
It is illegal to reject a foreign customer to come to a restaurant or a service. Housing discrimination is legal.
It's legal.
It is legal. Yeah, but it's not very nice to say that. I think a lot of people start realizing it's not a good thing, so they don't put it on the advertisement. But when the agent try to call them to find out, they'll tell you on the phone, not even in email.
Oh, interesting. But
This is
they
not
don't
nice
put
to
it
say.
in writing.
They don't put it in writing.
Right.
Housing discrimination actually is not just based on race or nationality. It's also based on your income. Sometimes even what type of job you're doing. So it's much more deeper than just the nationality or the race.
Interesting. There's no laws against.
Yeah.
Another thing that will drastically reduce the amount of apartments available to you is if you have a pet. Even if the apartment says like pet consultation or pet negotiable or something like that, you still have to go tell them what kind of pet you have. Sometimes they only allow dogs, they don't allow cats. Sometimes they only allow one dog. You can't have two cats, you can only have one cat. They do this because pets cause more damage and kind of disturbances to your neighbors around you. It's really tough. It's really tough if you have a pet. I hate to say it.
So I have pet-friendly wallpapers. This is very, very strong, but it's more expensive, not just for the material, also for people who put it on. So that's why the rental units,
They're not
because
gonna do
this is a business, right? They want to
Yeah.
make money.
Yeah.
They want to lower the cost as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, so they don't do that.
If you own a car in Tokyo, I hate to say it, but that'll cost you too. To own a car in Japan, by law, every car has to have its own designated registered parking space, and the parking space has to be within a certain dimension to fit your size vehicle. So if you own, I don't know, a Jeep Wrangler with a rooftop tent, it will be very difficult because not many parking lots in Japan have a space big enough for your car. So if you're gonna get a car, make sure it's a small one. In Osaka, we got really lucky and we were only paying 15,000 yen a month for parking, but here in Tokyo, we're paying more than double that. And yes, there is also key money for the parking lot. Every 30 years or so in Japan, there is a major earthquake that causes immeasurable damage. And since around 1880, after every one of these big earthquakes, a bunch of really smart people go out and they analyze the buildings that have been knocked down and the
Actually, I was wrong here. They don't study the buildings so much as they study the earthquakes themselves and like the seismic activity, and then they test that against the buildings and which ones will fall over and which ones won't. Kind of wrong, kind of right. But yeah, go check out Veritasium's video about it. It's really informative.
And based on that research, they update the building code so that any house built after that year has to follow this building code, which means that if you are living in a really, really old house, a lot of them will just get demolished and rebuilt so that it can be up to standard. Now, this is one of the major reasons that real estate is not a great investment in Japan, because the value of it goes down over time. Very unusual, I know, but it's also one of the main reasons, rightfully so, that most people don't want to rent out an older apartment. So personally, when I was looking for an apartment, I tried to find a place that was built within the last 40 years, because the most recent update for concrete buildings was in 1881. That will also decrease the amount of apartments available to you. The reason that landlords are so strict and picky about who they choose to live in their apartments is because the laws heavily favor renters.
It's a very big risk for the landlord. So if they had a bad tenant, it may cause tremendous trouble for them. As long as the tenant is paying the rent, the landlord cannot kick them out.
Now, of course, the owners don't really want you to know this, but there are a number of things that we as renters have a right to.
Yeah.
If the landlord wants to raise the rent,
Yeah.
do you have to say yes to it?
Well, the short answer is no. You can just refuse to.
Okay.
First, it is illegal to raise the rent, but it has to be mutually agreed on. The worst thing the landlord can do is to take you to the court. And if the court thinks the reason to raise the rent is legit, then you have to pay the new rent or you have to move out.
Does that happen very often?
It is very rare to take somebody to a court. It's going to cost the landlord a lot of money. But my advice for people who got the notice is like, just calm down first, but don't say no very quickly, because you want to still be nice, right? Ask, please give me the proof of why the rent is going up. They have to show you the evidence first. If it is reasonable, then you can say, okay, I agree. Or you say, oh, it's a bit too much. Can you lower the price? If you disagree, then you just say, okay, sorry, I don't think this is like reasonable. I'm not going to agree on this.
It's so different in Australia.
Yeah. It is very different than any other countries. Sorry, we got another cat here.
Oh, we have another kitty. Hello.
There's also one more here that I forgot to mention, and that is that you're totally allowed to put little like pinholes, like if you've got like a tack or something like that, and you stick that in the wall to hang up a picture or like a clock or something like that. You're totally allowed to do that. I had no idea. All my life I've been like, I can only use 3M tape because I can't put a pinhole on the wall, I'm gonna get charged. Anyway, that's just a bonus fact. So, how much am I paying? Since Chris is a Japanese national, it doesn't really seem to matter so much that I'm a foreigner, as long as his name is the one on the contract. So that means that all of the places were available to us, very, very nice of them. We checked out 6 other apartments first, and none of them really they were like, they're okay. And we saw this one and I just fell in love. I love this apartment so much. It's so cool. It is a 1 LDK. It's a little over 45 square meters. It's close to the station. It's in a really great area I can't tell you about. It's got a really amazing view that I can't show you, and it overlooks the beautiful of. It's 179,000 yen in rent, plus a 6,000 yen management fee, plus a 1,100 yen utility usage fee or something like that, and also 1 month's key money, bringing the total to 193,558 yen a month, which is an absolute steal as far as I'm concerned. I know that it's not normal for people to include the key money into the cost of the apartment, but this is how they keep getting away with it, because you just pay it and then you forget about it. We are also paying 31,000 yen for a parking space, which is not a steal at all. It's a really crappy parking lot that's just outdoors. It's a slab of gravel and it's not even like flat ground. It's so bad. We hate it so much. And also I have, for the first time in office, I'm so excited. I've never had an office before. It's such a mess right now. It's nowhere near ready to be on camera, but I just love it. I love having a space. My home can just be my home. What is this life? I'll make a full proper like apartment tour and office tour in a later video once it's all properly set up. The apartment is also not properly set up. It's still a bit like bland and grey at the moment, but yeah, well, I'll show you around properly later.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
So in my apartment hunting video that I put on Instagram and all of that, I got so many comments from people saying like, wow, it's so cheap compared to my city or whatever. And like, I gotta admit, when I think about renting in LA versus Tokyo, it sure feels a lot cheaper. But as we discussed earlier, if you're living in LA, you're not earning a Tokyo salary and vice versa. But there's one other thing that I think a lot of people seem to miss, and that is the size. Tokyo is notorious for small apartments. So while you might be able to find a cheap apartment, you might also be living in a shoebox. And with a population density of over 15,000 people per square kilometer, space definitely comes at a premium in Tokyo. But on a per square meter basis, how much of a premium and how does that compare to other major cities around the world? Now, this is just a personal theory, but I think if you took the exact same apartment, this is an alternate reality, right? You take the exact same apartment and you place it in the major cities around the world. I don't think that Tokyo would fare as well as you think it would. It's just a theory, I don't know. But I did some maths.
Anytime I see articles online of like the average cost of renting in Tokyo, they usually talk about Tokyo Prefecture, which is massive and includes like actual mountains. So for this little experiment, I've gone with the special 23 wards of Tokyo, which is widely considered to be like the city of Tokyo, because fun fact, Tokyo's not actually a city, it's a prefecture. And yeah, it's not a city. Crazy. I found out the cost per square meter of a rental in each of Tokyo's 23 wards, and then found the median, which is Otaku, which comes out to 2,810 yen per square meter. I then times it by 50 to get a 50 square meter apartment and added an extra column for key money divided over a 48-month period, which brings the median cost of a 50 square meter apartment in Tokyo to 146,354 yen. Nice. A lot of like financial experts, you know, all around the world, but particularly in Japan, they always say that your rental shouldn't be any more than 30% of your monthly salary. And actually in Japan, this is a requirement for a lot of apartments. So you need to show them proof that you can actually afford this apartment. And since I don't work for like a normal company in Japan, I had to just show them my tax return, which is actually crazy. So using that 30% rule and a calculation that I Googled, because it's really confusing, I found the salary required to afford this apartment. And then, this is the important bit, I found the discrepancy between the salary required and the median salary in that area, which in Tokyo came to 28.38%. Nice. I then did the same thing for 5 other big cities around the world, and here is where I can already hear the comments rolling in. I wish I could afford that. That's not true. This is completely incorrect. How dare you say that my city's affordable? And let me just say, I think I agree with you. I tried really hard to find like reputable websites to get this information from, but turns out very, very difficult to do, especially when it comes to like the size of an apartment in like Sydney and London. They really don't like to tell you how big it is. They just say it's like 1 bedroom. What does that mean? I don't know. Like, sometimes I couldn't find the median, I could only find the average. And remember, this is an alternate universe where a single person wants to rent out a 50 square meter apartment. Also, traditional norms and cultures and hidden fees don't exist. So with that out of the way, let's get to the stats. The city with the lowest discrepancy between salary required and median salary is Los Angeles at 11.21%. Quite surprising. Followed by London, so this is why I think my stats are wrong, at 23.41%. Then we have Tokyo at 27.38%, all right, coming in number 3, not bad. Followed closely by Sydney at 28.94%, and then New York City at 30.24%, and the clear winner by an absolute landslide, 107.69%, we have Hong Kong, which I know it sounds like a fake number, but I know I had to like do a triple check on this one. But Hong Kong is truly going through something else right now in terms of housing affordability. Like, there's so many news articles and documentaries about apartments that have been split up into essentially like bunk beds, and you can rent out a 2 square meter apartment. So yeah, evidently no one is struggling harder than Hong Kong right now. But again,
I don't know. I got my dad to check the math on this. He's a math professor and he said that the maths is correct, but are the stats correct? We'll never know. I think this has got to be why, like, every time one of those most affordable cities in the world article comes out, everyone always gets upset because they're like, that's not true, what about this and this and this? There's just so many factors when it comes to like affordability in a city. Culture and traditions and norms exist. Like in Asia, it's much more acceptable to live with your parents until you're older, whereas in Australia, you're probably going to live with roommates. In Japan, you're probably not going to live with roommates. I think when people look at Tokyo, they just see like a big metropolitan city and they've got a lot of things figured out really well already. I think it's kind of natural to just assume like, well, big city, probably similar salary to my big city. Well, that's just so not the case at all. Like if I say, oh, this apartment's really cheap in the Philippines, you're probably gonna be like, well, yeah, it's because it's in the Philippines. They don't know that much. But yet when it's Tokyo, people are like, well, that's crazy. Well, what's the catch? And you're like, the salaries, we're forgetting about the salaries. But there is one thing that I love about apartments in Japan is that these really small apartments do actually exist, so you don't have to live with roommates if you don't want to. Like, you can just rent a place for yourself in a pretty good area for pretty cheap. If you're willing to sacrifice a lot of other things and willing to live in a small space, you can do it and you can live in an amazing part of the city. I really like that about Japan, and that's certainly not the case in other cities where the only options you have are really big, expensive apartments that you have to rent with friends or something like that. Now, at this point in the video, I can hear the real estate investment landlord bros in the comments that are like, why don't you just buy the house? Isn't it really, really cheap in Japan? Aren't they giving them away? And the answer is yes, they are, but not in Tokyo. There are so many reasons to not buy a house in Japan, like the least of which being that it's just kind of not the right time, or it's not the right choice for Chris and I right now. Our money is way better spent, like invested in other things. As much as I really, really want to do it, it's not a good idea for a lot of reasons. If you'd like me to make a video about that, about like why buying a real estate investment in Japan is a bad idea, let me know and I will do that for you. My point isn't to downplay how unaffordable it might be in a lot of big cities right now, because holy moly, I know a lot of people are struggling with the cost of living at the moment. Rent is only one very small part of the picture, so I'm not saying that like, oh, it's cheaper to live in San Francisco than it is Tokyo. Not at all. I think I'm just getting a little bit annoyed by TikToks. You could just end it there. I'm just annoyed by TikToks. No, by TikToks that are saying like, oh, you can rent this apartment for $300 a month in Tokyo. And it's like Harry Potter's bedroom under the staircase. It can sometimes just feel a bit like disrespectful to the average resident of Japan who's not earning anywhere near the salary of the average American tourist in Japan. Also, I'd like to add that like living in a small apartment, it's not the worst thing in the world. Nearly 9 years that I've been living in Japan, about 8 of those years have been spent in an apartment that's less than 55 square meters, usually in like 25 square meter apartments. Because of that, I'm a lot pickier about the things that I buy. So I think I've become a lot more minimalist over the years, which I think is really good. But you know, sometimes I really do just wish that I had a place to chop the vegetables in the kitchen, so. So what do you feel about all this? Are you angry because you think my stats are wrong? Or do you feel enlightened by my Google Sheet? If you're living in Tokyo, I would really love to hear from you in the comments, especially if you can say like roughly what your salary is and then the affordability of Tokyo to you based on that. And if you're traveling to Japan, please make sure to check out my travel guide. It is called Beyond the Tourist Trail. It's available now on my website. It is a comprehensive 100+ page travel guide with over 120 hidden gems and unconventional locations all around Japan, accessible from Osaka, Nagoya, or Tokyo area. Every hidden gem in the guide has been properly vetted and photographed by me or by Chris, so you know that none of it is like AI generated, regurgitated garbage that most of the internet is full of at the moment, especially with travel advice. Every place is my own personal, deep recommendation, and I fully back up everything that I've said in the guide. So if you're interested in that, go and check out my travel guide. The link is in the description, or you can go to currentlyhannah.com/ebook. No? /travel guide. I think it's travel guide. I'll put it on the screen. You know what? I'll just put it on the screen. The magic of YouTube. If you like this video, please like it, share it with some friends who keep sending you TikToks about like, let's move to Tokyo, it's so cheap. And subscribe if you're not already, because I know that a lot of people that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so please subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Oh, this is a way longer video than I thought it was going to be. Wow.